Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining July board meeting. And before we move ahead, we'll just go a quick round who all are available. So I'll start with Sharif.
Yep.
Yeah. Owen.
Yep.
Grant.
Yep.
Bill.
I'm here.
Jubin. Martin has excused himself, so he will not be joining the meeting today due to personal emergencies. So we'll kick off the meeting for today. And before moving into the agenda, I would like to take a vote on previous board meeting minutes. So if anyone has any questions, please let me know. Okay, I'll go once, twice, thrice. Okay. We'll start
Just
off
one
with
thing.
Sharif.
Sorry.
Yeah, please.
You motioned to second it, the motion.
Okay.
Second it.
I'll second
Thank
it.
you.
Okay, sure. We'll start off with Sharif in the order of people I see.
Yes.
Grant. Bill.
Yes.
Jubin. Owen.
Yes.
Myself, yes.
Sorry, I don't know whether I heard Grant and
Jubin.
Jubin. I didn't hear a response from them.
They just said, and I think Jubin has a very low voice.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
could we try to get that recorded, because I didn't hear Jubin either. I heard Grant, but Jubin's very quiet.
Okay, sure.
Is this
Yeah, I
better?
just didn't. I didn't hear it either. So,
Yeah.
Is this better, guys?
Yeah.
Yes, Jubin, it's better. Yes.
It's a yes for Jubin.
Yes. Thank you, Jubin. And it's a yes from my side as well. All right. So, Andrew, would you like to share first with the organizational KPIs?
Yeah, sure. We've had a very pleasing, let me just go back here. I'm waiting for a final number for today. We have hit over 4,600 members. That's an increase of over 500 members this month alone. I'm waiting for a Slack. Yep, we're at 4,622 members this month alone, which is excellent. That sort of growth is very pleasing, but it's also almost certainly down to a combination of a few things, which we'll go through in the executive director report. We've had 78 meetings to in the 30 days prior. That's good. This is indicative of activity that's happening because people want to have meetings rather than just to make an arbitrary deadline, which is excellent. This is exactly the reason why we ran the chapter reactivation program, is to get more activity for our members. RSVPs, we've had 2,200 and more RSVPs this month, which the saying, it's about average for a month. So don't assume that this number, it fluctuates wildly is what I'm trying to get at. You can see in June, it was like 1,100, and there's no real reason for the difference between May, June and July. There was a similar number of meetings. We've had around the same number of visitors to our website. We are working on a marketing solution at the moment so that we can get some more visitors coming. Our year net income, I'll let that, and the cash assets, I've asked Tom Pappas to do a financial debrief on the half year activity. Probably best to describe what's happening there. So milestones delivered. We have done quite a fair bit. Can you just scroll down a little bit? Okay, so out of all the things there, one of them needs to be tabled from this thing. It didn't actually get tabled because I wasn't instructed before the meeting started. And I'm sorry for that. Sharif and I have had some discussions around making sure that at the prep call, if things are not ready, they don't get presented for being sponsored or whatever. So that's a change from before, but we'll go with that. That's probably a better way for us to organize things from here on. We've got the new We Hack Purple partnership member benefit. This allows people to access the We Hack Purple AppSec Fundamentals course. It is, I believe, a slightly decontented version for the OWASP members because it's normally a $499 program. And that is absolutely fine. I've looked at the actual benefit itself. It is amazing. And we thank We Hack Purple very much for it. We are kicking off our virtual booth partnership with Black Hat. This is a last minute thing, but we're getting it done. That's where we're going to be launching publicly our corporate member drive in the lead up to our 20th anniversary. We've got the new employee handbook that is essentially done. We need to just simply get it and give it to the staff. That will happen this week. I have finished all of the revisions in it. We have done a few other things as well. The main thing is that we've had to get the revised speaker agreement to support the new events policy, new trainer spits, again for the new events policy, which is not quite ready yet. The corporate membership program is essentially ready. I need to discuss some things with Kelly before we can go live, and I need to finish off the website. We've got all the assets for the art. We have got the updated contracts. What I need to do is just finish what is the appropriate discount and how many people are we offering it to. We're going to be getting that done, and it is, as I said, going to be publicly launched at Black Hat, which starts on July 31st. And we've completed July training. We have a number of milestones due in August. I will work very hard with Harold and Bill and the team to get the policies that weren't ready this month ready for next month prior to the board prep meeting. The 2020 audited financials should be delivered by then. They are basically done. We just need to wait for the CPA to write a letter. I'm working on an annual report for fundraising purposes. I want to have the business continuity plan ready. That one may get delayed depending on what else is happening, but I do want to make sure that that one's ready. We've never had one. We need one. I mean, we need to practice it is essentially what's the point of a BCP. We're going to be ready for a one and only lifetime membership drive. I don't think we should offer lifetime memberships on a regular basis at a discount, but it's our 20th anniversary and I'd like to see if we can get some more lifetime members. Obviously, we're getting prepped for the election. You'll see in my executive director report. In fact, let's go straight down there. Yep, it's right down the bottom. Okay, just really quickly, we've discovered a discrepancy again. The Stripe copper interlinkage is a little bit unreliable. Some members have memberships that extend very much past the time that they paid. That's a better problem than not having membership at all. So we've discovered around 236 members who've got incorrect end dates. The problem we've got is that we don't know if any of those people have incorrect end dates who've already expired and have not received any notifications of such. So we need to fix that. And I've got Harold working on that as one of his top priorities. I will investigate getting a tool built that will compare Stripe, Copper, and MailChimp to make sure that everybody who's eligible for a vote on September 30, we can run a tool on the day and make sure everything's corrected and absolutely right. Unfortunately, the webhook process that Stripe uses and we have to make use of is just unreliable. There's just no other way of putting it. It sometimes triggers no times, sometimes it triggers 4 or 5 times. And there's nothing we can do about that except to build compensating controls into our systems. We will work with Harold to resolve this issue before the election. The previous vote that gives people the ability to stand and vote at the elections if they have the correct membership, we will make sure that that vote is upheld. Okie dokie. The other thing that I want to draw your attention to is in the internal global board mail list, I have forwarded the feedback from our 2 partners on the bulk membership. This will give you the clarity as to whether or not you want to go ahead with this. The reality is that we would have to work with Andrea very significantly to help him understand if this is a bulk membership or an individual membership. We don't currently have that technical capability. It doesn't mean we can't do it. It just means it requires a fair amount of effort on both his side and our side to make this work. So I would imagine that if you want to go ahead with this and plan for it, gives at least a few months to make sure it's technically possible. It should be possible, but it's not currently.
Okay, so Andrew, just for clarification, are you saying that both both organizations are okay with it? They just need some technical implementation details so that they can tell the difference between one type of user and the other.
Yes, well, Andrea
Okay.
specifically, Tanya is actually just very supportive, full stop, end of story. She has no problems with it at all. My concern really is Andrea. For him, it actually comes with costs, and I don't think it's fair on him unless we can indicate that.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, and thank you for the clarification. That's all I needed. Okay.
Yep, and it was good for you to actually ask me to reach out to the stakeholders. That was a good thing. I wasn't aware that that might be an issue, and obviously it is. So good to find out now. Alana has decided to move on. She's spending more time with her baby, and we wish her all the best. We are in the process of actively recruiting for an event coordinator. We have completed the position description, and we're socializing it now with the HR people. They're going to review it and make sure it's legal. There are many employment laws in America, and if you say things that aren't legal, you can be in significant difficulty. So it needs to be done by a HR specialist. And we are making use of Insperity's recruitment facilities because it's a more junior role. That is currently a complementary inclusion from Insperity, and we thank them for that. And with that, I'm happy to pause for any questions for me. Then I'll hand over to Tom. Okay, Tom?
Hello, everybody. Can I take the screen? Can somebody give me the sharing, please?
Sure, you should have the sharing access now.
Yep, thanks, Vandana. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. The first thing I want to bring up is with regards to the PPP loan that we had for last year. The forgiveness paperwork and application has been submitted a few months ago. It's taking an inordinate amount of time for that to go through not only Citizens, our bank, but through the Small Business Association. They're working on the larger ones, the ones in the millions of dollars. We were actually below the threshold. The threshold was 150 to have to fill out the full application. We were only at 112. So it's going to be a while before they get to us, but all the paperwork's in. So I will continue to monitor it. As far as the EIDL loan, the economic disaster, Andrew and I have been tirelessly working with the Small Business Association because we finally got the application up so they could see it and provided the 3 items they wanted. Now, when they send us a link to set up our account, it asks us to log in. So it's a little bit of a challenge to log in when you don't have an account set up. So we're working through that. We submitted the ticket 2 weeks ago. I'm going to follow back up with them again, but our application is in. It hasn't been accepted, but we're at the point where they want us to set up an account. So we should be able to hopefully at some point when they correct this move along. So that's an update on both of the subsidy issues. I'll take any questions at this point on those. Okay, not hearing any, I'm gonna take us to the balance sheet quickly. So as you can see, we still have almost $1.18 million of cash at the end of June. Million in the US, 112 based on conversion in Europe. We have receivables that we're going after. Just about all of those are current. And actually I'll show you here. What is a good sign to me anyways, is our deferred revenue is increasing quite a bit. And what that is all of these events have invoices that have either been sent out or payments that have come in, and we will recognize them when the events happen. The most significant of which is the 20th anniversary. So when we looked yesterday, I had our bi-weekly call with Grant and Andrew, we were at $149,000 worth of sponsorship for the 20th anniversary. Our budget is 50. So Kelly's and the team is doing a phenomenal job with that. And that's before any registration for any training. And because it's online, in the past, you know, with a face-to-face, the more people that go, you got an increase in expenses. There's not really an increase in expenses with this because it's going to be online. So, and I'll come back to that when we get to the P&L. But that's a very good thing. So, you know, our equity is holding at just about $1 million, which again is a good thing. So with that, I'll take any questions on the balance sheet, which is where we are at a point in time.
I do. On the deferred revenue line items, one line item that I don't see is AppSec Cali. Kelly and Andrew, do you have an update with regards to this?
I've had calls with Haral and Martine, couple calls with them. The last one was just last week with Haral. We are sourcing venues. We're trying to look for a new venue. If we have to go back to Annenberg, those dates are available in January. So we're looking for a cheaper place, maybe not on the water, but and maybe not in Santa Monica, but the surrounding areas. So we're hoping to have, I guess you say, a venue locked in within the next 2 weeks for AppSec Cali. And just so you know, too, we're going to be taking the training from them. The foundation itself is running the training. They're just going to be doing the conference. So we're also looking at the possibility of, you know, the training maybe could be held at a different venue than the conference, just because they don't need to be at the same place and it'll save on costs. So there's a lot of unknowns yet, just because of, you know, which way we're going to go to try to save the most money.
So Sharif, the reason you don't see anything here is because, unless I'm missing something, we haven't opened up registration, sold any sponsorships yet. So there's nothing, there's nothing to defer. But once we do, you'll see it here.
Yeah, and that's not like, that's, you know, January of 2022.
Right.
I've reached out to all of the sponsors who sponsored last year's AppSec Cali event to see if they would be interested in helping us fund the event, because it wasn't built into our budget. A lot of them, most of their replies either are they can't commit to something that far in advance, knowing that we're planning on it to be a face-to-face event. Some companies are not allowed to commit to anything just because it's a face-to-face event and their policy won't let them yet. I've shared that information with Andrew. So right now, I think it's kind of too early to just, you know, there may be companies out there that like I said, those were just the companies that sponsored last year's event. So the more I think we get a venue and start to promote it, hopefully we'll get some companies that'll be able to sign on and help us with the budget, because I don't think it was, as far as I was told, it's not in the budget for next year for the venue.
Kelly, can I ask you something? Did we reach out to AppScan, HCL AppScan?
I reached out to, if they didn't sponsor last year's event, I didn't reach out to them. It was just the companies who sponsored last year to see if they'd be interested in signing on early to help us fund the event for next year. So it's kind of hard, like, without having any, I guess, real information on dates and event, not so much event, well, a venue too, but dates, you know, for companies to commit, to say, yes, we'll commit to that. You know, I need to get the dates locked on.
Right. So probably what we can do is we can touch base. And I remember this guy wanted to donate something last year also. They, at the last minute, they joined the AppSec Cali team. So we will just try and see if those guys are still interested.
Okay. I just wrote down AppScan for AppSec Cali 2022. Okay.
Right. And I think Jubin also had some question.
Yeah, I don't want to take time from Tom's presentation. So maybe this is extra business we can discuss towards the end.
Yeah, or if you want to email me, Jubin, or if we can jump on a call too, whatever's easier for you.
Yeah, it's more of a, like, for me, is the board still comfortable with this?
Yeah, going face to face.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, any more questions with regards to the balance sheet? Okay, I'll take us over to the board summary. And I'm not going to read from the narrative, you all have that, but Andrew asked me to do a deep dive. I did. The couple of things that I found was there was a few items that needed to be deferred. There were some invoices for the 20th anniversary that needed to be deferred. So I took care of all of those. So I've reviewed everything that is in the current conference number. And as you can see, the reason that we're up here in the month is because we finally got the Eventbrite funds in so we could recognize it. We were up a little bit on the quarter, and year to date, the team's right on its number for conference income, which is a good thing. As Andrew alluded to, we're doing better in our membership at this point. So we're exceeding our revenue. We don't have any grants. The donations are doing a bit better. We haven't sold the merchandise that we had thought, and the trademark that program's still in development. So we're about $86,000 better in recognized revenue than we had budgeted. And most of it's because of the membership. I'll stop there and see if anybody has any questions on the revenue.
So on the, I wouldn't say the grants, but parts of the grants that will improve also as on the trademark as well. That will improve as we start working towards the corporate membership
Yes.
policies as well. Is that correct, Andrew?
Yeah.
So strategically,
we identified that we don't have a good process at the moment for allocating grants. We've received $16,000 worth of money, $15,000 or $16,000 of money for CRS and SAM. We need to allocate that to the grants. That is currently not being done, but it's there. So when we de-restrict, when we do the expenses policy next month, I'm hoping that will be properly categorized at that point. We have also identified that we need a proper process with virtual to identify a pre-approval that creates the actual amount rather than paying people out, because we've had a couple of examples where people were trying to be paid before the deliverable was actually done. So we need to do some work with virtual on that.
And Andrew and I have had some conversations about it, and we're going to have a call, myself, Andrew, Kelly, Dawn, and Harold, because what we'll end up doing is you'll end up seeing restricted funds on the balance sheet when they come in, and then once the grants are approved, when they are paid out, then we will recognize grant income, match it against the grant expense, reduce the liability, the restriction, and it will tie itself out.
Yep. And that's one of the reasons why we've got a motion this month to change the definition of the expiry of a restricted donation.
Okay. The last question I have with regards to this is, how are you going to tell when something is related to trademark versus corporate membership?
We'll be
because my understanding is sometimes you will ask someone to become a corporate member because of trademark issues, for example.
Yeah. So if they take out a license agreement as part of the corporate membership, there will be a certain amount of the funds set aside from that equivalent to the licensing fee that we're proposing. So essentially, the trademarks won't be discounted as part of the corporate membership. It will be recognized as a trademark once they execute a trademark license agreement with us. We've got that legal paperwork now. It's just a matter of getting it out there. And I want to do it with corporate memberships first, and then we'll go through, this is the actual trademark program.
Okay. And with the corporate members, are there some finances that will end up in chapters or projects? Is that going to be treated as grants, or that's just going to be put as in the general?
It'll be put into the
fund?
expenses pile. So there will be, if they choose to sponsor chapters or projects, a certain percentage of their corporate membership will be directed into the expenses pool to allow more projects, more events, more chapter activity, more generally, rather than just simply saying it's for the London chapter. It will be, I'm just using them as an example because they're like the poster child of a good chapter. What we want to do is make sure that everybody can expense.
Just to check, but are the chapters and the projects notified that they've been given sponsorship, just so that let's pretend that, for example, or the money is used up, that they'll be aware that actually they were, a company had actually told them that we want to sponsor you and part of the money is actually going towards you, so that they know that they should probably spend it.
Yeah, that is actually part of the design of the new corporate membership program, yes.
Okay.
I have a question. So I can see that we have budget allocated for projects in technology, for events, for outreach and marketing programs. Similarly, we have some budget for VR diversity and inclusion. And I can see that we are seeing the over budget thing. So if I may ask, how exactly it's being spent? Do we have any insight around that? Because I don't see any activity happening around that. I've been part of the meetings, almost every meeting. So I just want to understand this, that how this is being spent.
Vandana, you're talking about the WIA diversity and inclusion.
That's right. Yes, yeah, I think you're there. Yes.
What's allocated there is basically a portion of staff salary. There really isn't anything else as far as an expense allocation
Mm-hmm.
in that. And this is just because I have to take a percentage of the total. So
Mm-hmm.
it's off a little bit. Same thing with education and training and fundraising. Those are all
Mm-hmm.
percentages for the staff time.
Yeah. This is actually how we can demonstrate using the nonprofit methodologies that are common. This is a program spending. If we didn't have the staff allocated to this, it wouldn't happen. And so we're spending money on it and we need to allocate that, but can also report it as being, we've spent money on that program because we've actually done some work.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Because this was confusing and I was coming to education and training and fundraising, that how are we trying to allocate that portion here?
Vanda, if you want to do a little deeper look at it, the approved budget by month, this will have by the programs exactly what's in there. So as you can see, there were a number of things that we wanted to do, but at this point, there's just a portion of the staff's salary is the only expense that was allocated. Same thing with education and training.
Got it.
My goal in the operating plan from last year is that every element that has an expense should have a way of earning income. And we're well on the way to making that possible for every one of these areas. So projects and technologies can earn income for grants, events, obviously, that's how we used to make all of our money. We need to diversify that significantly. Outreach and marketing, we're hoping that by reaching out to more people and making better partnerships, we can gather more corporate sponsorship, more donations through that mechanism. So again, what we're trying to do is wherever there's an expense, there should be a way for that area to earn money. So to pay its own costs, but also to promote our mission.
Sure, got it. Thank you.
No problem. That's what this is here for people to ask questions. So I'm glad you guys are looking at these and asking some questions. Any more questions on the revenue as we go? I mean, the only thing that I'm a little concerned with on the revenue is, Australia was in our budget. It's not going to happen. However, if you remember the 20th anniversary, Kelly is doing such a phenomenal job. The net income on Australia, because we kept it low, was only about $45,000. So we're already 100,000 over our budget for the 20th anniversary. So the hope is that it will cover it. And, with a few more months to go, Kelly's still got a few prospects out there that will come in. But I got to say, with a $50,000 budget and tripling it, kudos to Kelly for doing that, because it's helping the rest of the foundation.
Thank you, Kelly.
So with expenses, as I said, Andrew, I, and Grant meet every other week just to have a financial check-in call. One of the other items that I found, like I said, I found a few invoices that needed to be reclassed. I did find an expense miss when we were budgeting, and it has to do with Insperity. So the compensation, the gross compensation to the staff is right on the penny, but what we estimated for benefits, taxes, and the Insperity fee, and it's not easily determinable from them. They do a percent. They do a percentage. We budgeted 20%. It's closer to 35. So the miss is going to be mitigated by the fact that Alana was on maternity leave and is now left. So we have budget that's not going to be spent for a little bit. So the miss could be somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000 by the end of the year. I now know to go back to Insperity. I mean, typically 20% is more than enough, but I've got to go back and get their fees for when we budget this year. So as Grant and Andrew and I noted, I will be having a call with Insperity to get the actual, exactly what it's going to be for 2022 when we start budgeting. So if you take that miss for expenses, we're 16,000 under year to date. What we're over budget in revenue for sponsorship and covering Australia, we still should be able to either hit or exceed our net income for the year, is where we're projecting at this point. Again, thank you, Kelly. So with that, I'll take any questions on that piece, but I wanted to point that out because it's not, you can't really easily see it in this, but I did want to point it out. Okay, with no questions, I do have to do a little reclassification here. There's credit card fees in here that we actually budgeted in events and outreach, so I need to move them. So the overage here is $10,000. We're about $10,000 over budget in legal fees at this point. Some of this will come up to events. Events will probably be right on their number. Some of it will come up to the outreach. Now with the outreach, we had marketing and merchandise in there that we haven't quite spent to yet. So that's part of why that's under budget. And then in project and technology, there's a learning platform that we had some budget in there for, and the projects haven't spent to what we had budgeted yet through the half year. So that's why that's under. And the last item is chapters. Now, while this looks like the chapters are basically spending to their budget, they're not on pure chapter expense, but what's in here is the meetup expenses that we've incurred for the first 6 months, because that's truly chapter driven. So, you know, it's under budget what we had estimated for them, but they've only spent probably $4,000 or $5,000 in true chapter expenses for the year to date. So again, our budget for net income was a minus 128. I'm sorry, our actual 6 months in is a minus 128. Our budget was a minus 221, and we're $93,000 net income better through the half year than we estimated because we budgeted conservatively. With that, I'll stop and take any questions on any part of this that anybody might have.
I might make an observation. The reality is, although we're $93,000 ahead of our budget, we're still making a loss. If unforeseen circumstances like this current Delta surge continues to impact our operations, some of our assumptions that we could go back to in-person events earlier than we expected, I'm really hoping that we can safely run Dublin and San Francisco. Our assumptions are yes, but we need to make a decision this month as to whether LostCon goes ahead as a physical or a hybrid or as a virtual event. And so I've asked Harold as an independent adjudicator, but I'm also going to lean upon the LostCon organizers. we still have an over reliance upon our event income, and we do need to continue to work on other sources of income. But I just want to continue to note that we are still making a bit of a loss every month, and that can't continue forever. So I'm going to be asking for the 2023 budget to be still a relatively conservative budget until we get back on our feet.
Couple more notches.
With regards to LastCon, our net income on LastCon is only $10,000 net. Again, we did that specifically because we didn't know last year. So to Andrew's point, it's the last item I put in here. We're doing well, especially compared to, other nonprofits that I work with, but we have to keep our eye on the ball to try and, maximize our benefits for our members and our sponsors, to keep them spending, and to keep an eye on, spending that we don't necessarily need right now. So have to haves versus like to haves through the first 6 months of the year.
I mean, if this environment continues, we may need to look at Meetup. It's one of our largest single costs. We've done the best we can to optimize the number of active chapters, and we've got more activity, but our bill went up because more chapters are now active. So it's a substantial fee every quarter, and it's something that we may need to look into. We may need to have a lower cost option, which is not going to be ideal.
It's not going to be ideal for several reasons, because there's a reason for some of the cost of it, which is it's a platform for everyone. So you're not just paying for the service, you're paying for the audience and the visibility and the reach that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to make sure that that is considered, and the drawback for going to another platform considered, especially its reach, whether or not people will be able to have access and be able to join or not. But I hear you. The other item is the other way around, which is, well, how much money do we need to raise on the corporate membership? You saw how fast and how high sort of the individual membership is rising. The other question is, once we do the changes on the corporate side, like how much does that need to go up to? How many companies that we need to actually offset some of these costs that we are still concerned with?
We're approximately on target for our corporate membership budget. Our individual membership is doing very well. What we need to do is focus our energy now on the new corporate membership design, encourage people with the 20th anniversary to get involved with us again. I have a target that we get 20 new members during this promotion process. That will be a good number, but if we can blow that out of the water, I'd really like to get up to, Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, but at one point we had nearly 70 corporate members, and we're currently at around 55. Is that right?
Did you say 70?
Like in 2019 or 2018, what was our peak?
Yeah, I would say between 60, around 65, 66.
Yeah, and so we need to get back up to those numbers. And I think the previous design of the program discouraged some due to its income limits, and we were arguing with them. We can go back and actually renegotiate with them. I think we can probably get some quick wins, but we certainly do need to continuously promote, as part of our marketing message, the sponsorship, the donations, the event sponsorship, and corporate membership. So essentially we need to just keep on focusing on revenue streams that we're under marketing at the moment.
If I'm not,
I mean,
oh, sorry, Sharif.
yeah, no, because I was just doing like a back of cigarette packet calculations. For example, if we have an average corporate member, like including like some of them are 20 and 50, how much, for example, if we reach 10,000 members, how will that help our expenses if we reach 20,000 or 15,000? Over time, obviously, that doesn't happen overnight. Getting us to, because if you look at like the amount of money that you spend on events versus the return versus how much you're spending on membership and the return that you're getting, well, what are the areas you should be investing? The next stage is corporate membership and making sure that the benefits to these corporate members are attractive enough for them to pursue. You've made the membership now attractive for the individuals, which is great. And it's going on an upwards trajectory. Investing more in that is also would help. But let's take a look at the corporate membership and seeing what you can provide to corporate members that would make it attractive for them to become part of the OWASP Foundation, large defenders and so forth. And one of the things for me is making it a comfortable environment for them to collaborate together on security projects. So it's baby steps. So the first part is you've done the trademarks, you've actually will publish it soon and do a drive on the Black Hat side. This is one key area that I'm quite passionate about. So let's see where this goes. It'll be good to see. Ideally for me, like if I look at the LF, the big money isn't just sort of the events and so forth. It's going to large corporations that will then say, well, these are areas that we can collaborate together to further the mission. And there's totally a large budget there for others to invest in, because they do invest in other organizations in order to solve some of these challenges there. And the money doesn't just go to the projects, it goes also for the membership fees and the maintenance of those foundations. And just look at the LF, for example. So this is a baby step to get to the point where the projects gets a good, healthy ecosystem for corporations to work together on large projects in order to be able to further the mission. And they definitely need it from an AppSec perspective.
Yep.
Okay.
No worries. That's fair. I don't know if you want to go into it now, because obviously we're coming up on the hour, but the branch for the corporate membership stuff is nearly complete. I just need to publish that. If you want to have a look at the benefits, I'll publish it into a branch and then you can actually view it for yourselves. Now, I have not discussed and finalized with Kelly yet the discount. I think there's definitely, Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, but your view is that we should not be discounting corporate membership. But I think, this is a once in 20-year event. And I think, we do need to encourage people who've been recalcitrant in the past to come back to us, and we can see it as an investment in the future with renewals and whatnot. We're also planning on doing a lifetime membership, which we should never really discount either. So I just want to get a sense from the board, because board does set the fees for membership. Are you comfortable with us offering a small, say 10% discount for say 20 sponsors who come first?
Yeah, I think we're comfortable with that. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to ask a question. Kelly, what is your reservation for not wanting to?
Yeah, for the record, I'm against discounting corporate membership. I feel like we're a non-for-profit organization, and some of these companies have millions and millions and millions of dollars. It's not that they can't afford it. I think that when they see the new benefits added to the corporate membership, I feel like that's going to be more of an incentive for them to join. Of course, anybody's going to jump on a discounted rate, but I also feel like the companies that I've just sold, I don't know, however many in the last 2 weeks, and here we're coming out with a discounted rate. It just, I don't know. I'm against it.
You also run the risk of, when you do things like that next year, when there isn't a discount, there's a number of those groups, I think is what you're alluding to, Kelly, that just joined for the discount. And you're right. I mean, in the audit 2 years ago, the auditors agreed that the corporate memberships and the individual memberships are basically, because we're a C3, donations, contributions, because they're not really receiving any hard value for it, which is a lot of the open source C3 orgs that I work with. So, if we start ramping up the benefits, it'll change the timing of recognition, I guess is what I'm saying. Right now, we recognize when the funds come in because it's a contribution. If they truly become, term limited, then, we'll have to account for it and budget for it that way, and we can. And you're not going to lose the cash part of it. It'll change the timing of the accrual numbers that we put out, because that's how we report to the IRS, and that's how we manage internally right now. But I do agree with you, Kelly, that, if you start discounting something like that, that's more meaningful.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of exposure. I mean, our logo on our website alone, how many, views does our website get? These companies can afford it. It's just give them a little bit more benefits where it's not going to cost us anything. That's the benefits that are meaningful to them. And right now, I mean, if my numbers are correct, I believe we've already reached our corporate membership goal number already this year. So I just don't feel, I mean, we've seen it multiple times over and over again, to Tom's point, when we discounted individual membership or included a membership with a conference ticket. Of course, they choose yes, our numbers look great for a couple months, and then the following year, you see this huge drop off. And we've been doing this over and over and over again, and we're not getting anywhere. I feel like discounting this for corporate members because of the value, because of the marketing, the benefits that they get, I don't know.
But didn't you just change the corporate membership? How long ago was that? A year and a half, 2 years? It's changed a lot in the last like 3-4 years.
Yeah, multiple times. So I've got to keep my own spreadsheet just to keep track of what companies, when a company signed on, what were the benefits then? And have we fulfilled all those benefits? And then this company now joined at this time, so they've got different, I mean, that's besides the point. That's back end. I don't mind doing that stuff. I just feel like if we were to discount corporate membership, we're doing a disservice to ourselves.
Let me give you one other thing to think about, just because I work with so many not-for-profits. Harold just brought up, he's got a good point in the chat, which is, the memberships that you just sold, Kelly, in the last couple of weeks, I don't necessarily know as they'll cancel them, Harold, but I guarantee you that when the sponsors get wind of it, if we did something like this, Kelly would be getting phone calls saying, hey, now if I'm going to keep this, I want my discount. Now, if we were in a position where we were, we didn't have enough funds to operate or something like that, where we kind of had to do it, which has been in the past.
Something different. Yep.
We're not there right now. So I think with the downside that this could present, I mean, Kelly's proven it with selling the sponsorship sold for the 20th anniversary. I'm in agreement with you, Kelly.
So Kelly, there are two parts to this, and I just wanted to double check. Are you talking about an initial discount because Andrew was proposing, because we're starting this project or this update, that the membership for the first couple of corporate members, that it's at a discounted rate. So instead of 5,000, it's cheaper, for example, for the silver. Is that the one that you're recommending that you don't, or that in each of the member tiers, there's a section with regards to discounted sponsorship at events and places like that? Do you have an issue with one of them or both? I just wanted to check. I can tell.
Yeah, I feel like this is where I get a little confused, because I refer to corporate membership as corporate members. They're becoming a corporate member of the foundation. Then there's corporate sponsorship, which is where a company chooses to sponsor one of our events or multiple events.
Right.
Corporates, if they're a corporate member, if they join the foundation as a corporate member, almost all of our events, except for the 20th anniversary, offer discounted sponsorship rates if they're a corporate member already. So I'm okay with discounting event sponsorship, which is corporate sponsorships. I'm not okay with discounting corporate membership. And that's where they get the logo on the website and all those other benefits associated with. That's what I am not. Right now, we've always offered discounted sponsorship rates for corporate members. That's like an incentive for them to join as a corporate member.
It's one of the benefits, just like discounted entrance to a conference for individual
Individual,
members.
yep.
Okay, so I can at least provide my feedback here, which is a large defender, when they become a member, they're mainly trying to do the right thing. And I think like with vendors, they're more likely to spend on sponsorship, and just simply because of the incentives that they get, or their interests and where they align. I think the gap, the overlap is for trademark that would make the corporate membership more attractive. None of this may necessarily need I don't think it needs a vote, because again, like we didn't push it with a sponsorship, Andrew, specifically because of previous conversations. But I think what you can do is, if there is disagreement within the staff, first I would have liked that it was brought up earlier, but you can start it without an initial discount drive, or have a limited discount drive. But it's mainly for defenders to make the right thing. Sorry.
Sharif,
Grant?
our bylaws do not allow Andrew to modify the price of membership. He can change the price of costs to sponsors for sponsoring an event, but membership costs are set by the board. That's why Andrew's brought it to us now.
Okay,
So
well,
if
he's
there's
asked, but initially that wasn't actually on the table at all.
Yeah.
It was just going to
I
happen.
wasn't proposing to change the actual $5,000, $15,000 and $25,000 entry points, but discounting is an issue. This is obviously an element that didn't get put onto the agenda this month, and no one's had time to prepare for it. Honestly, I would be happier if I could propose a motion to be voted on. We're not due to go live with this until July 31st. And I do want you to understand that there are different views within the staff on discounting, and I may be in the minority. In fact, I think I am in the minority.
You said July 31st, meaning this Saturday?
That's when Black Hat goes live, but the booth won't be really active until like Monday next week.
Wednesday and Thursday, I think it was. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. I think we can run an e-vote on this.
Okay. I'll put that together and get that out to everyone. Could I have a sponsor and a second, please?
I can sponsor it.
Okay. Grant, this is money. Do you want to second it?
I'll second it so that we can have a conversation.
Okay, dokie. I'll write up a proposed motion in global board. Or do you want to have a private discussion offline?
No, I think put it in the global board.
Okay. And then, yeah, please do have a discussion and let me know when I can schedule that. Okay.
So as per our discussion, looks like all the other discussions are tabled for today, but we can talk about community review process. Yeah, oh, okay. Please go ahead, Annette.
There is one motion on the restriction, which was agreed to at the prep call. Can we just go through that real quick?
Sure. Give me 1 second. Let me share my screen. Okay. Please let me know when you are able to see my screen. Yeah, I'm here. Sure. Okay, I have to go up.
Yep.
No. Yeah, here you go. Yeah, so this motion is about motion to change de-restriction of restricted funds. So
Yep.
Sharif, do you like to, as you are the sponsor, would you like to share your thoughts on it?
Sure. So this is with regards to restricted gifts. Instead of having it with regards to calendar year, it's going to be specifically 12 months from when the money is received. And so that it doesn't, so that it's given sort of ample time for the
So essentially this happened, the original de-restriction policy was put in place to make it easier for us to do the year end, right? So we know when money's going to roll over back into the general budget. But that meant two things happened. One, towards the end of the year, people were less likely to give restricted donations, meaning less likely to give us the money. And two, if they did give the restricted donations, the project or the whatever entity it was restricted to had less time to spend it. This is just taking away those restrictions.
Anyone has any questions around it?
Sorry, Grant. I think you started to speak to it, and I don't think I heard it. What was the original intent for was this just kind of like somebody wrote this to begin with this way, and then it was left, or there was actual intention behind it?
There was actual intention behind it, and the intention had to do with the work involved with tracking individual donations for the 12-month period.
Yeah.
But
So,
what we've
sorry, just really briefly.
Andrew.
My predecessor was, let's put it this way, restricted donations are always difficult no matter how you do it. But if they state that you need to spend it for purpose X and you haven't been able to spend it on purpose X, it stays around forever. By putting an end date on it, it says we've tried as hard as we can to get it done. The problem is that by making it the end of the calendar year when many people have a use it or lose it, that would discourage people, and projects would really struggle to find something to spend, say, a $10,000 donation on. So this just simply gives them time to do like a grant or a deliverable at a realistic time when many organizations actually have the money just floating around and they're struggling to find things to do with it.
And the original intent that it would expire at the end of the year was just to make it easy from bookkeeping's perspective.
And Andrew, are you comfortable with the operational assuming there is operational overhead to manage this? Are you okay with that operational overhead?
It's really on Tom Pappas's team. The reality is that when we record the donation, it has a date associated with the original transaction, and because of the new design, which is essentially, it becomes, I believe, a category in QuickBooks. I'm not terribly sure of the actual way that it happens, but it shouldn't be overly difficult, but it does require a little bit more work on Tom's team to review the restricted donations every month instead of the end of the year.
Yeah, right. It'll be part of my it'll be part of my closing process, which is to determine what's been spent on which ones, and then to release those funds from restriction. Right now, we don't have any, so.
I have a quick question, Tom, because we didn't have the meeting on this yet. So how, if someone gets multiple, say top 10 gets multiple grants, so is there going to be a report for this project every month to say what's left? Because say you got something in January, you hit 12 months, that money drops, but the June money's still there. So like, how do people know?
Well, that's what Sharif was asking, that we have to
sorry.
determine that from the meeting, that, as Andrew mentioned. So we've got to come up with the presentation process.
There is something as well that I would be reminisce just for historical reference. So when we were first looking at this, there is an entirely different way of dealing with this altogether that I've looked for large international charities. In fact, a charity cancer hospital that's world renowned. And what they do is for their pillars. So let's say projects, for example, here, they would not have like each individual project. They would have a massive drive, a yearly drive for projects, and in them goals for each project. So they would say the OWASP top 10 needs 10,000. This other projects need this much. So if we get 100,000, these are the capabilities we would be able to deliver. And then there'll be stretch goals. So the restricted gift would be specific to projects, not an individual project. And then it will go down to, okay, if we have 100,000, this is what we're going to spend it on. If there's excess by the end of the year, it would just roll over to the project's campaigns for the following year. So it will be still a restricted gift, but it will be a restricted gift for projects rather than one or the other individually. So it's easier to maintain, and also for the corporates and the guarantors, for example, they know that their money will still only be spent on these projects. That will be spent on projects. It won't be spent on anything else. It won't go back to unrestricted. So the spirit of the intent is kept, but we also have the freedom of decided where it's going to be spent in order to further the mission, as long as it's just restricted for projects rather than admin. The other one is a lot of these grants, they're perfectly happy, as we've highlighted, to take 10 or 15% admin, which Andrew is slow sort of dialing, but they completely understand that the foundation itself, any foundation, needs to maintain itself. So they understand that part of that becomes operational cost. So just keep that in mind as we're evolving this. Changing it to 12-month period is still fine. Because if you have a grant that you know that you can spend within 12 months and the guarantor agrees to it, then that's fine as well. But that's only for small grants with a couple of thousand. If it's hundreds of thousands and so forth, then there'd be hesitation of whether or not they can spend it within a 12-month period and going specifically to one thing. That's my feedback there.
Anyone has any questions? Going once, going twice. Okay, if everyone is okay and this motion is sponsored by Sharif and seconded by Grant, can we go for a vote?
I believe so.
Yep, I'll take it as a yes. So I'll go by the people I see on my screen. So Sharif, I can see you first.
Yes.
Grant?
Yes.
Jubin?
Yes.
Owen?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And a yes from my side. So the motion is approved.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Andrew, I think all the other motions are tabled for now.
That's correct, yes. I've got written approval for that in emails, and I've got the tabling in Signal here. I'm assuming that'll just move. Also, the events committee is still not ready. So what I might do is just simply take that off the table until the events committee is actually ready in a future board prep call, and then we'll get it back on the motion. It's been in 3 board meetings so far and not progressed.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
Right,
end of official business, I believe.
right. So Andrew, you wanted to discuss about the community review process.
Yes, Sharif brought this up, that essentially his original design for the community review process wasn't actually the one that got implemented, and it is actually a little slow. I do believe the policy review team is doing an immense job, and they've actually incorporated a lot of community feedback. So I like the element of the policy review team. But Sharif, can you describe your concerns with the current process and what you originally designed? And then maybe we should bring a motion to a future meeting to discuss what that policy should look like.
So it wasn't supposed to be even for policies. It was just a general best practice for board members that if they want to enact change, impactful change, that they have just a simple process that they can follow with the rest of the staff and the community to help each other out, make a decision to move the foundation. Because it's really hard, right? You have a whole bunch of stakeholders. If you want to do something, you need to make sure that everyone's on board. You iron everything out before it goes. So initially, it was based on how I got a bunch of board motions done, which is you start out with a problem, you communicate that out to the community, ask questions on how to solve it. And then on one board meeting, you present a draft based on community feedback. You seek out feedback from the board and the staff to wordsmith it. And if it's ready for a motion, given everybody's feedback, then you submit it as a motion. and for the board approval. And that could be literally anything. It could be a policy. It could be a motion, a general motion. It could be anything else. In fact, the foundation can leverage that for even something operational that just needed more community feedback in order to make sure that they iron out any of the details. So it wasn't thought of, it was only thought of to that level of detail, which is start off with an idea, communicate it out. One board meeting, you'd have a draft for discussion. And then the sponsor would basically seek out the rest of the board to collect their feedback, if there are any like remaining items, and then basically have it voted on the following board meeting. Just to help everyone, basically, if you want to change the foundation or set the direction, there's actually a way of doing it so that it doesn't feel nebulous with every stakeholder, every person's resistance, that there's a simple way of going through it. At the time, so this is the intent for it, right? So at the time, the big thing were policies, right? There was a whole bunch of policies that the foundation wanted to enact, and it went from a board's motion to why don't the staff and the foundation own it and build it, to hey, let's build this policy generating factory. And the problem with the current one is, as we're seeing even today's and so on, the board sponsors are not like in the driver's seat, right? So they just get landed a bunch of policies and say, hey, can you rubber stamp it? Rather than them championing it or looking at changes that they see that needed. Now, granted, they are required, but that's why you end up in situations where the problems is at the back end rather than dealing it with shifting left, as it were, and making sure that the sponsors are heavily engaged from day one. So I hope that clarifies things. So Andrew, yeah, that's the that's mainly the current problem with the situation.
So the reform that I had intended for the finance stuff has nearly completed. I don't intend to do much more than pretty much 1/3 of policies need to be reviewed every year to keep them fresh. But I believe that to be the board of the day, they need to be in the driver's seat for that review. But I don't have any major reform left, really. So I'm okay with whatever the board decides here. My main concern is that if there is major change, there's a lot of stakeholders, and a more informal process may get the groupthink thing happening, where there's piling on for a particular view that may be contrary to the board's and fiduciary duties. I like that element of the current policy review, that it's not public until the very end, so the transparency is maintained. But this is the board. You can change the way this policy is designed. Obviously, it was designed before my time, and I have no really strong opinions other than I don't want piling on.
Yeah, I think the policy review is actually going well, and the people are going well. There might be some ways to make it more efficient. I think my personal feedback is there needs to be a process maybe alongside it to just help the boards push large changes that they foresee, right? So Bill or Jubin or Grant or others, that if they foresee like a large thing that we can improve, then there's a process that helps sort of shepherd them through and being able to address any of the issues so that it goes all the way to a motion. Because right now, it's a free-for-all, right? And it depends on the skill of the board member, if he's aware of how to scale these dynamics and understand them, which is hard. So having something there that is alongside the policy review, we can provide feedback on the policy review process itself and making more efficient, but the other party is sort of a general process for motions in general, like large, impactful motions that will need multi-stakeholder feedback.
Harold wants to say something.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything that you were saying that was necessarily a negative to the way that it's currently being done, right? It's almost exactly what you laid out. The difference here is you had mentioned, if I understood correctly, that a particular policy, it has a board member as the sponsor, if you will. And that is, of course, the intent of that is because it has to be a motion, so it has to be a board member. But what you're saying, I'm trying to figure out if you're saying that a particular policy, if we're trying to renew a policy, for instance, do we not go down that path if there's not a board sponsor for it that's, who's actually engaged in it and wanting to go through it? Or are you saying instead we pick up the board sponsor early in the process so that as we go through the policy review team, that the board member who's the sponsor is also engaged in that?
Yes, because this is also something systemic of another point, but this is like a wider thing altogether. And that is, this board specifically doesn't have an executive that is on the board, i.e. putting in motions. That isn't atypical. There are other boards like that, but that means that if you want something, you need to be proactive with the board to get them on board. Yeah, to get them on from day one. So I think you need to look at the list of policies that you need to work on and make sure that the board, there is a board sponsor assigned to it as it's going through the process, so that at least the board member realizes. Because I'll tell you now, it's, for some cases, we only see it like a week before, and then once it's there, sometimes it's not even ready. So the only time when you see a final draft for the board to read sometimes is on the board meeting. And so you need actually that it's done and dusted. But the way that you can smooth things over as well is that there's a sponsor in a second, at least through the entire process, so they're aware of it.
Okay.
Good idea. Anyone has any inputs on that?
My main concern here is that we've heard about this. What would you like to do about it? Shall we lead a discussion on global board?
I mean, I hate inaction. So I think there's a couple of things. The board has agreed that this was going to be an operational matter or operational process. I think the foundation should just figure out a change and just recommend, hey, why don't we do this? Or present an offer such as, hey, here are the next upcoming policies. They are dead in the water unless we get a sponsor, and that will force the decision for the board to decide which policies they will have to review and have to be part of the process. So I think that's one way of doing it. And speaking of indecision, I'd like to go back. Where did we land on the corporate sponsorship discount?
I'm going to run a discussion in global board, and then because I've got a sponsor and a second. So the reality is that that opens up the discussion portion. And once you've got to a place, I can schedule a vote.
Okay, but your Black Hat is on Thursday, right? That's when you're intending to publish it, right?
The booth won't really be active until Monday next week. We've got a bit of time.
Okay, but not that much time, right? Because you need to get that done. So so you're saying you're going to run an e-vote, right? Have a discussion over email and then an e-vote by Monday.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's fair. Yep.
All right. No. Just so that the board knows, the next step is it's going to be an e-vote and an email discussion.
Yeah.
I'll get that done as soon as we finish here.
All right, thank you.
So Sharif, for the community review process, we need to have an extended discussion so that we can have a person who can own these things, so we can take it forward with the right pace. Is that right?
What we just said is let's leave it as a operational. When we left it with the staff last time, is that the staff will come up with an approach. So the staff will come back with an approach and recommended improvements. I don't think it will need to go through a board vote, but we'll take a look at the approach. We can highlight if there are any objections and we can just move forward. Grant, your hand up, right?
Yeah, so one of those big things we need to get community improvements on is the thing I'd like to talk about next. If I may.
Sure, Grant, please go ahead.
So I'm going to try and share my screen, which will probably fail because my computer somehow is stuttering badly. It's been complaining that I need to reboot since the kernel update 2 weeks ago, and I
fail
haven't had
because
a
you
chance.
have a co-host, which I have made you now. So you can share your screen now.
Well, let's see if it works. We've been talking as a board about how our mission statement has changed. Select the window or application you want to share. Basic things, I only have a whiteboard. See if I can do a portion of the screen.
If it doesn't work, do you want me to share the document?
Sure, if you wouldn't mind, Andrew, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
As a board, we started the year talking about how our mission statement has changed over the last 20 years and how it probably no longer accurately reflects what we do as a foundation. We talked about how we wanted to make some changes to that, and it's been a process that's been difficult to get kickstarted. So what I've done is I borrowed Andrew's book, The Dummy's Guide to Running a, technically it's, what is it officially, Andrew? The Dummy's Guide to...
Yeah, it's a non-profit kit. Despite being a dummy's guide, it's actually quite good. It explains things in simple to understand English.
The non-profit kit for dummies.
Yep.
But it is incredibly valuable. So I borrowed the book. I made some notes out of there around the mission statement. I put that information into this document that Andrew is now sharing. Thank you, Andrew, which is in draft status. I have a proposed mission statement in there, which I've very, very briefly, not very long ago, i.e. This afternoon, shared with my fellow board members. And I know some of you had a chance to take a look, and you've given me some feedback already. Thank you very much. I know some of you haven't had a chance to take a look at it, and that's my fault because it was very late. I don't want to rush this process, but I do want to get the process started. And I want all of you to provide some feedback in here. I've also, this document is a little bit more extensive than just this 2 small paragraphs of the new mission statement, my proposed new mission statement. There is the ask for members, for leaders, for board members, and there's some guidance advice, which I've taken almost completely out of the nonprofit kit. And I've then worked through some of my own thinking around the advice that's given in the nonprofit kit. There's also some other reading that I've done that I've added to the end, which is just further reading, further stuff to take a look at. But I'd like everyone to take a look at this document. I'd like you to start providing some feedback on it. I'd like you to read through the ask in specific and use the board members to help introduce changes to this. And I would like, before the end of this year, to have changed this mission statement. Ideally, I'd like to change it before our 20th anniversary, because that would be a great time to announce this is OWASP moving forward for the next 20 years. That's it. Thank you for the time.
Grant, that looks incredible. Is there a motion?
There isn't a motion yet because I want to get feedback. So essentially, this was just me introducing it officially to the community through this board meeting. I will gather feedback for a period of time, and then I'll put a motion in the board meeting prior to our 20th anniversary, which is, help me out
Actually,
here, Andrew.
August. It's actually
August
August.
1.
I reckon you can probably discuss it at August and then put an e-vote in September prior to the actual 24th, because the 27th is our next board meeting in September.
Okay, so then I'll do that so that we actually vote on it before Andrew goes on stage and announces it.
Good one.
Yeah. Now, the last piece of informational stuff is the board previously discussed 28th anniversary honorary memberships, which are a lifetime. I would like you to, I will put up a discussion of how many we're going to do, but you should probably have a private discussion as to who you wish to give them. So we can get that e-voted just before the 24th as well.
Absolutely.
Can I ask you something, Andrew?
Mhm.
Can you share some names with us?
Yes, I do know from doing some research on our original mission statement who some of the highlights were founders. I could probably ask Mark who he believes were the major contributors. I have a view.
May I ask that we don't do it on a recorded call?
Yep.
No.
That's what I'm trying to say. What sort of criteria do you wish? I think I know one particular member that you wish to help, reward. But you may have other views, and I just want to make sure that they're properly covered.
So, Andrew, perhaps we would be better off asking you if, as the ED, you wouldn't mind putting forward some proposed criteria.
Yep.
But I think we as a board need to have a private conversation about what we think.
Yep.
And
do
who we
believe that.
think.
Yes.
And I propose actually that we talk about what the criteria should be, and then we ask Andrew to find meet people who meet those criteria.
That's a good idea. Yeah, that's what I meant. Wherein, if we know, okay, these are the criterias and these are the people who might be eligible for it, and then we can have a discussion that whom we really want to give this to, or award this to, not give, but yeah.
And then we'll also have to check if they haven't already got lifetime memberships.
Yeah,
Because I
that's right.
suspect that a lot of our members that qualify probably committed to it.
Yep. I can certainly, once we've established the criteria and then puts forward some names after you've agreed to the criteria, I can certainly give you some indications as who has lifetimes.
Sure, Andrew, this helps.
Okay, good.
So is there any other discussion that anyone, or any other point that anyone wants to bring in? No. If no, then I think we can adjourn for the day, and I'll pass the motion. Who wants to second? Thank you.
Second. Or
That was Owen.
That was
everybody.
Owen.
Sharif first and then Owen.
Sorry, I didn't hear Sharif's one.
So I'll open it up for vote. I'll go by the people I see on my screen. I'll go with Grant first.
Yes.
Sharif,
Yes.
Jubin,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Owen.
I kind of want to say no, but yeah. we don't technically need to vote on an adjournment.
Yeah, it's a yes from my side. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. See you all next month.
Bye.
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 Have a good one. Bye bye.
Take care.
Bye.